Hello, everyone, and welcome to Campus to Career. This is our third Techloop event, and IEEE-VIT is glad to present Arushit Mudgal, an industry expert and IEEE alumni, as the speaker for our event. Arushit is an accomplished engineer and alumnus of IEEE-VIT, where he pursued his undergraduate studies in computer science from 2015 to 2019. With a strong foundation in software development and a passion for innovation, he has made significant contributions to the tech industry, having previously worked at Akamai and the HoneyNet project, where he participated in the illustrious Google Summer of Code 2018. He is currently employed as a software development engineer at Cashfree. With a wealth of experience and technical expertise, Arshit has established himself as a highly skilled professional in the tech industry. Good morning, sir. Over to you.
Thanks, Varun. That was a really nice introduction. But yeah, let's get started. Uh, so the first thing, I wanted to talk about is what this conversation is not about, right? And I've this is not about a talk. This is about this conversation that we're gonna have. So let's try to make it. Let's try to keep the comments rolling. Let's try to keep it bi-directional so that it's not just me giving yarn, it's you also, and the kind of knowledge that I'm imparting is can be, you can relate to it, right? So this conversation is not about any pointers on how to crack a job or something. This conversation is not about let's say rules or guidelines that you have to follow in your life. It's all about my experience, my journey since the time that I joined in VIT as a software engineering, yeah, in CSE, and then how I jumped to my career, and then how I switched jobs. Right. Okay. So the first thing I'll talk about is my journey, and we can have the questions later on. Right. So before even coming to VIT or any engineering college, right, the first thing that I had in my mind was all these questions that you see on your screen. What is the average salary? Which college is the best? Which stream should I choose so that I get the best package? And I think a lot of you can relate to it. If not, you were woke before even you entered engineering college. But yeah, I was not. And it makes sense, right? Because when you are coming into college, you are spending a lot of time, and before even college, when you're spending time to prepare for these exams, you want to understand that what is the return on investment I'll get. Will it be fair enough? Will it be? Will I be able to sustain a good life or not? And that's the mindset I had before even entering any college. Uh, so one thing let's try to understand here is, and that was my learning as well, is that you are not average and you don't want to be average, right? When you see every question here talks about either the initial package or the average salary. No one talks about that. Okay, once you have graduated your engineering college, you are working for a company. What will be your salary after 10 years? And this is pretty obvious, right? That the majority of the amount that you will accumulate or majority of the success you will have will be either in your 30s or in your 40s. And whatever you will be earning in your 20s is just going to be very, very, very insignificant. So why do no one talks about it? That's a different topic. But yeah, that's the mindset that a lot of people come to college with, and we don't want to have that mindset, right? We what we want to have the mindset is that okay, I am going for an XYZ thing. Let me become very good at it, and let's see that how much a company will be able to pay me for my skills. Now, today, if Guido and Rossum, the creator of Python or comes and wants a job in Google or something, uh, he won't go and figure out what is the average salary of a principal engineer, right? He will figure out ki ha, this is my time, what it is worth, and this is what you're supposed to pay. So that is a shift in the thinking. That is a shift in the uh, let's say a mindset that you need to have. And this goes for the first year, second years, before you even start preparing for placements, right? So you're not in your 4 years to, let's say, get a XYZ package and say that yes, I cracked a super dream offer. But you also want to develop that thinking framework. You also want to develop your personality. You want to be your best when you come out of this 4 years of engineering college, right? So how do we do it? It sounds all good. So the one way you can do it is surround yourself with the smartest people, right? And that's where I think my first lesson came, that I came into VIT. I was lost. I was very excited. There was a mix of emotions, and I got joined in. I got recruited in IEEE into management. So yeah, it comes in as a shocker that I was recruited for management, but I did not know coding at all. At that time, for me, equal to and double equal to were the same thing. It took me 2 days to figure out ki why is it double equal to two compared to variables, right? So this was me. And the first time I was in a meeting with IEEE folks, and this can be anything, right? It can be any chapter or any bunch of people that are smarter than you. It doesn't have to be just IEEE. But when I was there in a semicircle facing my seniors, I could see a shift, or I could see a way of thinking that I've never seen before, right? So when you're exposed to, or when I was exposed to these people, the way they are thinking, and I was like, yeah, aisa bhi soch sakte hai. You can also think in this direction. How come I did not think of it, right? So your horizons of thinking expands, and the shift in the mindset starts happening. So you don't talk about anymore that okay, what is the salary that I'll get, or what is this thing I'll get. You talk about uh, what are the problems I would solve, right? So that is the first lesson or the first learning I had. Again, disclaimer: everything that I talk about is my life, my journey. There might be 108 ways that you can reach to the same places that I have, or maybe better. Uh, but yeah, so that became my first lesson, that surrounding yourself with the smart people. Now we have the base ready, right? Now we have our thinking ready. What is the next thing? So give me a second. I'm trying to figure out this. Yeah. So then, uh, okay, I really love this exceed joke. But yeah. So once I came into IEEE, I started talking to different people. I started realizing that everyone was working on the coolest thing ever. Uh, Things that I have never even heard about, you know. So ML, AI, all this. And for me, these were like just terms. Me coming from a Delhi guy, these were short terms to maybe something else. So uh, I was also excited. I did not know T of technology. I did not know E of engineering. And my point was that maybe, okay, let's try something. And at that time, in my first year, Android Studio became a lot of people were doing Android development. And that is what I wanted to do. So I started doing that. And then I realized, oh, I don't want to do that. It's quite boring for me, personally, me, right? But I was forcing myself to do it because others were doing it, right? I didn't want to, let's say, step back and say, "Ki, ha, this is something that I wasn't able to do because my peers were able to do this, right?" And there were, so this slide particularly talks about the new technologies that comes every day. right? You might see your friends working on the latest, coolest blockchain thing, or for these days, maybe working on the GPT models per se, right? But the question that you should ask yourself is it something that I want to do? Is it something that interests me, right? Uh, and that's where my second lesson came, is that you need to understand what makes you kick. Uh, and that was very important for me because in your 4 years of engineering, the most important thing you have to do is when you step out of the engineering career, uh, engineering college, you understand that what type of person you are and what things you like. Because trust me, after these 4 years, you will have avenues to experiment with your life, but everything will come at a cost. These 4 years, the cost maybe that you will give is your time. That's it, right? Uh, and after these 4 years, if you try to want to experiment with your career, with the things that you're working with, you can always do that, but it always comes at a cost. Maybe you won't be able to shift your careers very easily. Maybe the number of experience that you have, years of experience that you have accumulated, right, will go to waste. So these 4 years, uh, you need to understand who you are, what makes you kick, and you don't have to follow the herd mentality, right? And the common theme between these two lessons again is that we don't want to be average. uh, Again, my point was, my thinking was, I don't want to be average. uh, right, I want to be the best in whatever I do, and it could be anything. It doesn't mean it has to be engineering or coding or anything. Whatever, if I'm good at it, if I'm great at it, I'm pretty sure that people will recognize me first, and second, people will pay for it, right? So do let me know if I'm going too fast, if I'm going too slow. uh, but I'm going to take my own sweet time uh, to cover these topics, right? And so yeah, and I realized that okay, Android development is not something that I want to do. This is not something that personally I'm interested in. And I moved into second year. I tried a bunch of technologies, and as second year comes in, you start thinking about your placements. A lot of people think about their placement in third year, fourth year, good, but for me, I got worried a little too early, right? Uh, and the biggest I think the question that comes to me is, or was on my mind at that time as well, is whether I should do competitive coding, prepare for the placements that are 3 years down the line, or whether I should do development of some sorts, let's say web development or something, or should I just be the cool guy and work on some blockchain, right? Uh, so these questions, I'm pretty sure that you must be having. If not, if you agree with me, please comment down. I would love to see some comments rolling. Uh, so yeah, these are the questions that everyone will have, and if you are asking these questions, you are not alone. Everyone has asked these type of questions. Maybe not. I don't know what other technologies these days that engineering students are interested in, but yeah, that's how it goes. Uh, And so one day I'll be doing competitive coding, the other day I'll be doing development, one day I'll be doing competitive coding. Uh, and what is the result of it is that I suck at both, right? You try to do both, you don't go anywhere, uh, and you let's say you are master of nothing. Yeah. So you are jack of maybe two or three things, but you're master of none. So you need to understand that competitive coding. Let's talk about competitive coding for a while, right? Competitive coding is not a very difficult thing, first of all, right? We have some comments. Nice. So competitive coding, I mean, if you're taking competitive coding as a actually competitive coding where you're going out and participating in, let's say, ICPCs of the world, then maybe yes, you need a lot of time spent on this to nourish it as a skill. But if you are seeing competitive coding is just as a tool to get placements, you don't need more than 6 months, and that is 6 months on a stretch that I'm saying, to become very good at competitive coding, to crack one of the best, let's say, in companies. I don't personally like the word crack, but yeah, that's how it goes, right? There is a pattern that every company follows. You know the kind of questions they ask, and you will be able to answer them. You will be able to code it. You will be able to solve it. So I would say reserve competitive coding for your third year, or we'll talk about it, but third year is a good time. And before that, try to hone your personality, try to become better at other things, right? It could be development, it could be blockchain, it could be blockchain development, it could be web development, it could be Android development, it could be anything. It could be maybe theoretical artificial intelligence and ML work. It could be anything. Maybe if you're interested in distributed computing, uh, why not? So that is most important, that once in your second year you have realized, okay, competitive coding is something that I'll do later on, uh, or that is something I realized that I'll do later on. What I started doing was, again, I was being distracted what to do, right? Even in development there are a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things I can do. And the first thing I started doing was, and this is again I learned from a very dear friend of mine. uh, he was the application head of IEEE, and he was in my board. So yeah, the the thing that I started doing is having short-term goals, right? Um, I think this goes very against the common philosophy of a lot of people who say that, okay, where do you see yourself 5 years down the line, right? And honestly, we can talk about that for a while and then we'll come back to the short-term goals again. Is that anyone who says to you, what, where do you see yourself after 5 years, and is expecting a very rational answer, um, maybe hasn't grown exponentially ever in his life, right? Why do I say this? Is because 5 years is a very big time, especially in your 20s, especially in your engineering career. Maybe you can look back on your year and say and see how much you have grown, right? I mean, so 5 years, even now, if you ask me where I'll be after 5 years, I don't know. I even don't know where, if I'll be, let's say, continuing my engineering, or will I have a farm somewhere and I'll be maintaining that, right? So it's very important to break these vision into short-term goals. You can have a vision in your life that will also evolve, but what short-term goals does is it gives you discipline, right? Today, for example, you say, I want to try, let's say, gRPC for that matter, or maybe I'll take a just maybe API development, right? Basic web development. Uh, so what you do with it is you tie it to a goal. You have your OKRs or whatever you want to call it, and then you say, I'm going to spend 2 months on it. Uh, these are the things I'm going to try in these 2 months. Uh, and again, with yourself, under promise and over deliver, right? So if you think you can maybe do it in 1 month, give yourself 2 months. uh, give yourself 2 months, figure out uh, what you want to do. So I'll talk about how I did it, right? I wanted to try, let's say, machine learning. I gave myself a goal that, okay, I'll study this and this, I'll solve maybe a Kaggle data set. uh, and that's done and dusted. So once I reach that place, that, okay, I have spent 2 months, maybe then I can take a decision whether I like it or not, right? Not before that, not in 2 weeks, not maybe spending 5 months also. But I have spent good enough time, even though let's say I was not personally interested in it, and I have a basic understanding of what it is. And now I know, okay, this is something that I don't like, right? So in my 4 years, uh, what started with ki I want this average salary or whatever, change into there are 15 things I want to try, and I was crossing each one out. So that by the end of my fourth year or by the end of my third year, I knew I had that list only had 3 or 4 items that I wanted to explore. And I said, okay, I'll explore it when maybe in my fourth year or when I start working, right? Then also I have some time to explore these things. So that is very important, and that was very important for me to have the short-term goals, because it kept me distraction free, it kept me disciplined, and also it gave me a basic understanding of everything, whether it be Android development or machine learning at that time, uh, right? So once, okay, we'll move to that later. But yeah, once uh, I started realizing the short-term goals, I gave a goal to myself that I want an internship in HackerRank. So that became my goal. Till January, I tried for it. Again, this is me stepping into my third year. Uh, so yeah, till January, I tried for it. I had a call, couldn't crack it. So what I did was, I remember at that time my tech head Sahil used to say something ki GSoC is amazing. And I was like, what is this GSoC? Again, a lot of acronyms, right? Uh, so he told me ki GSoC is this Google Summer of Code, and the most legit people in VIT and actually across India, different colleges go through it. And so we'll be very honest now, the quality of GSoC students have diluted a lot. But at that time, it was still diluted to to be fair enough. But yeah, it was something that had mm, prestige to it. Let's just say, right. So he told me कि IEEE में no one has ever gone for GSoC. Uh, uh, and I was shocked. You know, you see a bunch of smart people, definitely smarter than you, and I was like, what is this thing GSoC that no one is able to figure it out, right? Uh, so from January, I made it my goal uh, to get into, let's say, Google Summer of Code. So before that, also, I had this conversation a year prior to when I started deciding. So when I was deciding, I already had a good enough idea that what GSoC is and everything. uh, I started looking at the organizations. I started realizing, so what is one organization maybe I can join and I'll start enjoying. So, and again, there's a shift in the mindset, right? Earlier, maybe when I used to think about GSOC, it was something else. But when I was selecting an organization, my primary goal was whether am I getting interested in that organization or not, because GSOC is hard work. I know that every day you have to spend some time, and more than smartness, it's about perseverance and patience, right? Uh, you are contributing to open source. You start with very small tasks, and let's say there are code bases that have millions of lines. So when you are going into that millions of lines of code base, you want to have that patience, perseverance, to take your time, to take your own sweet time and go through that code. So here and when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the organization that you are selecting is something that you really like, that you can connect with, so that you can go out of your way to spend that energy, right? Did that, uh, selected an organization, the honeynet project, and started working towards it. So you are supposed to send your proposal by April. I had what, Feb and March to work with this. And again, if it would have if it would have been, let's say, 6 months, the time frame, I am pretty sure कि मैं नहीं करता. I wouldn't have done it, right? Again, the short-term goals come. Ki I have 3 months. Either my proposal gets selected, I get early feedback, or then I work for GSoC. If I don't, maybe I'll do something else, right? At least I know not more than 3 months will be wasted on this. So yeah, I started working towards it. Got selected, uh, and then it became a very, very, very important. So there's a question in present. What shall I take in GSoC? Uh, I am not clear what the question says. If it means that what organization you want to select, I would say that organization should be something that have been selected previously, previous years, have a good track record of that, and something that you know that uh, you can work with. So you're really interested in. Also, make sure that their communication is very open. In open source, communication is the key. So these are the things, but maybe we can catch offline and I can give you more pointers, right? So yeah, now GSoC became a very, very important thing for me uh, going forward, because when I was sitting in my first interview that I gave for Akamai Technologies, um, I did not sit for another interview. I got selected in that. And when I was having my managerial round, I was pretty sure that I was pretty confident. And to be honest, I was quite braggy about it. And he said he's checking my resume and everything. And I said, "Can I borrow your laptop? I'll show you my work. Instead of talking about it, I'll just directly show you." And on his laptop, this was the first time I was using MacBook, struggled with it, and opened my GitHub and showed him my some PRs. So what you are doing here is you are telling your employer, hey, I know that you are hiring for potential, but here's this guy sitting in front of you who has already coded on such a large code base. So we will spend very less energy in training him or her, right? And that makes you very hireable. So all these qualities are something that each employer looks for, right? They're getting a person who knows Git, who knows version control, who is coding since a long while, who has coded not only just on college projects, but on open source projects, which somewhere resembles the organization or the company's code base, right? The scale at which it is. And once you start yeah, so these are the some pointers, and then you are giving this, you are hiring this guy for a very, let's say, cheap dirt price, right? So developers, freshers are the money that they are given are as compared to other positions, senior positions, it's very less, right? Because you are a fresher. So you're getting an experienced person for a very cheap price. So why won't you go for it? Uh, so it becomes a very lucrative dream or lucrative offer, I would say, for the employer to hire you. So I would say that your goal or my goal should not be ki, ha, I want to uh, go in this company and work for it, or this is my goal or something. You should be that, okay, I make myself capable enough that any company, I choose that, okay, which company wants to hire me, right? Obviously, definitely that means that you have to go and give interviews and all. Not people won't come to your house and say, "Ha, Arushit, let me hire you. I really want to hire you." But that's the idea, right? That's the thinking framework we have here. And now we have moved. Now I have moved into my third year and fourth year, right? I did not spend a lot of time in competitive coding, to be honest. Until date, I haven't. Uh, so yeah, that is one thing maybe I want to work on in the next year. But I have spent not more than a month on competitive coding. Uh, and yeah, I also wish that. So yeah, and so spending a month on competitive coding is not even a month, I would say, like 2 weeks or something, because Akamai came in the first week and I started a week prior, uh, before placement started. So yeah, I am not good at competitive coding. I never give, let's say, I never tell people what to do in competitive coding. because it works for me. I mean, I just can figure out some things and I can drive the conversation to where I want rather than the question itself. So that helps. Uh, Also, I have never dreamt of going into a FANG company. So that also aligns with my thought process that, okay, I don't want to do competitive coding. Uh, so when we are preparing ourselves for placements, right, maybe in third year or fourth year, or even in first or second year, it's very important to understand that I have seen a lot of people, including myself, I was also in that, hey, I will only do this in Python. Let me search for a company that hires for Node.js, right? Or let me go where I can do Django. So at the end of the day, it's very important to understand that languages are just tools. Imagine a carpenter coming to your house and saying, I though will only use my drill machine to build this sofa. I mean, that does not work, right? Uh, so it's very important uh, to un- to understand that languages are just tools and you are supposed to use them to solve a problem. You are not a code writer per se, right? You are engineers, you are supposed to engineer a solution, and you are supposed to solve problems, real world problems, when you move to your career. And it could be through Node.js, it could be through Python, whatever fits the use case best, you choose it. So that is very important. Now, once you have this mindset, you won't come and say, ha, I'll do this in Node.js or I'll do this in Django. You will say that, okay, this is the problem that I want to solve. Uh, and I will solve it through these tools, right? So never get stuck on languages or technologies. When I take interviews of, let's say, even lateral hires, right? Lateral hires as in people who have experience, not freshers. Um, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth if someone comes and tells me, yeah, I'll only work with this technology. And my follow-up question is, what if, let's say, I want to build a data pipelining use case and not just an API use case, right? What will you do then? Then, I mean, you're not a problem solver. You're just a code writer, and no one wants to hire that code writer, right? Maybe some companies can, but yeah. So yeah, uh, so once now you are in your career. Now I was in my first year of my, let's say, career. I joined Akamai, and maybe we can talk about it more later. But I would want questions coming in from that side so that I can expand on some particular topic, right? So uh, we have this thing, right? Look at this guy from, uh, I think it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the old one. So yeah, so it's oh engineering. Please tell me more about how you're better than everyone else. And we actually think that. And if you don't think that, if you once you start working for a company, you'll start thinking that. Trust me. Uh, Whether it be product management or non-tech folks on the other side, you will think that, oh, I am driving the business. Oh, I am the most important guy or the girl in the company, and or everyone is doing some random work, and I am doing very important work. And that also confirms with the salaries that people are getting these days, right? Maybe not right now, a year back, when you will see people earning 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs. I personally have heard of a joining bonus of someone of having 1 crore, right? So uh, it's very important to understand that, and in through this, in this, you get lost in the thought process that, okay, whatever I'm doing is the most important thing, and everyone should start revolving around me. So if I have a very interesting problem to solve, uh, that is actually the most important problem of the company to solve as well. But that is not the case, right? You need to understand that, uh, okay, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, you need to understand that not each problem requires the same amount of effort. And it's very important to understand and analyze and choose which problems you're solving given the time frame. Now, this takes me to my next point, which is the Pareto principle. Uh, I'm not sure if you have heard about it or not, but it's a very cool principle or a rule that I like. It's also called the 80-20 rule. So basically, it says that 20%, sorry, 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. We can debate about it. That is something else. But yeah, the idea is let's not get stuck on the numbers, but let's try to understand what it represents. It represents that s- the amount of effort that you're putting, there is some things that you can do which will bring the best results. If, let's say, for example, if you want to lose weight, uh, you just start eating clean and you just start basically being in a calorie deficit, right? That's very simple. I mean, you don't even have to go to gym to lose weight. Similarly, um, you want to be disciplined, maybe start sleeping on time, right? So these are the small things that you can do, and it applies to engineering as well. So you need to identify the problems that will deliver the best value to the business, not to you. To you, maybe making things complex and solving it would be very interesting, but not to the business. Business does not care about it, right? So this is the Pareto principle, and it's a good thing to support your, uh, let's say, whenever you are deciding what to work on. And so I had this personal thing, right? I was working on, in my first year as my career, I was working on something very cool that I thought was cool. And when I was not appreciated for it, I felt betrayed. I felt ki, oh, I was solving this cool engineering problem. Why didn't people tell me, or why aren't people praising me for that? And then I realized, oh, the impact of it is nothing. I mean, to you it sounds cool, but to the business it's not money. So business is there. Sorry, engineering is there to support the business, to drive the business, to take the business forward, not vice versa. And the faster in your career you align with it, uh, and the faster you will grow in your career, right? So you identify what are the business problems and that can be solved through engineering, and that is it. And you can maybe talk about the details, such as what language I'll use, what coding frameworks I'll use, um, where will I host. All that does not matter. If you actually go to a CEO and say, "Hey, I am on AWS or I am on GCP," he'll say, "Why do I care?" Right? So engineering is to support business, not vice versa. Okay. So that was my first learning uh, in corporate, and I realized it's very different from how college folks are. Right? In college, if you see a person, let's say I'll give you two scenarios. One guy working on PHP, uh, and have hosting on cPanel or something like that. And IEEE a few years back had their own website on cPanel and on PHP. Uh, I'm not sure if a lot of people know about this. Yeah. And on the other side, I give you a person who is, developing on AWS, have EC2 clusters, and then he has also taken the EKS cluster, have things running on Kubernetes. Um, Maybe for the CI/CD pipelines, he has Bitbuckets or Jenkins pipelines or whatever, and then for CD, he has Argo CD. So all bunch of stuff, right? Now you have these two people uh, who will appear more cool to you, right? Who will have more things to brag. Definitely the person who is on the AWS side, right? Uh, and it makes sense because college is a place for you to explore. It is a place for you to tell ki, these are the things I know. When someone is coding on PHP, it's not, maybe that is the thinking we have, that maybe he's coding on PHP because that is what he or she knows. Uh, so it's not about the simplicity. It's not about the Occam's razor rule, right? But in corporate, it's opposite. The simpler things you can do, the simple solution that you can do is the best solution. People who make things complicated is are actually looked down upon, not looked down upon, but yeah, it's not good to be in that place where you are making things complicated for everyone, because the more resources will be spent to just maintain that. You should always try for the best and the simple solution. um, so this is also what Occam's razor rule. So I was moving to, so I started working for, I worked a bunch in security in Akamai. I worked a bunch in DevOps, and then I was working as a full stack developer. A full stack for the namesake. Mostly it was front end, and in the back end we had some CRUD APIs, very basic stuff, right? Nothing fancy. So I was doing that. I was working on a project. I wouldn't say leading, but heading a team of three people. Uh, and then uh, I realized that okay, I maybe it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to go to somewhere else and learn new stuff. And at that time, I thought I'll do my own startup. I My family is from finance background, so I was thinking around finance. And finance, doing startups in finance is very crazy. You know why? Because everyone uses money. You take even like the CEO of the best company out there to the person who is maybe selling something on the road, right? Money is something common. So your target audience automatically becomes very large. And with India, where the digital revolution is coming in payments, it's a very nice place. So yeah, I thought about it, but I couldn't figure out a good problem to solve, to be honest. Uh, so I thought maybe I'll join someone who is already solving a good enough problem in finance sector. So that's how I chose Cashfree, and I was only applying for finance fintech companies. So yeah, I my Cashfree's interview was mostly revolving around. So there were 2 3 rounds of competitive coding, which I did, somehow passed. Uh, and one of the interviews, who became a good friend of mine later on, said in his feedback that not that great at competitive coding, but would be a great teammate, right? Something like this. So this also reflects that how bad my competitive coding is. Uh, so I stepped into Cashfree. I realized it's a whole new world. I mean, how startup works is just crazy. I mean, the kind of ownership. So I was initially hired in a front end role, but I was being mentored by a guy who was a backend guy, and I started doing hardcore backend. So when you're talking about backend, it's not just CRUD APIs, at least in Cashfree. Since we have a lot of scale, it's a lot of hardcore engineering, and distributed systems is the keyword here, right? So I started learning all this, and I became very interested in it. I mean, um, I started using data, designing data intensive applications, uh, and that also opened another portal for me. And I moved to backend completely. So right now I completely deal with backend. I actually haven't even seen how the UI of Cashfree looks like, which is bad, but yeah. So I'll maybe someday look at it. Now it has been 2 years in the company, and whenever, so yeah, and when you're in a corporate career, a lot of things happen. There are a lot of changes. There are a lot of let's say problems to solve, and it's very important to understand that whenever you are going uh, On this path, you always have to be a part of the solution, never the problem, right? Uh, a lot of people complained about their managers micromanaging, or let's say, let's take college for example, right? Even in when you are in a board, XYZ person is saying this, oh, we are blocked here, we have, and then comes a blame game. So whenever you are playing the blame game, or whenever you're pointing out the problems, you're just being the part of the problem, not the part of the solution. And you will always meet people who will consistently be a part of the problem. But the onus is on you, that whether you want to be a part of the problem or you want to actually solve it and say, yeah, yaar, the problem, you also have that problem, I also have that problem. Let's figure it out, right? And in companies also, that's the motto uh, that the best engineers or the best people have. Uh, so the best discussions I have had in, let's say, past 2 years are the most argumentative, where we are just like, we have this frustration on our face कि नहीं ऐसे होगा ये ऐसे होगा, but at the end of the day, we both, or people who in the conversations, knew that the conversations we are having, we are debating the ideas, not the person. Or if we are disregarding, we are disregarding the ideas, not the person again. So nothing was a personal attack. uh, and at the end of the day, all of us are trying to find the best solution, not to just massage our ego. So that was a very important lesson I had, I would say, in the last 2 years. Uh, and so, and right now, I am working on. Okay, I did not talk about it, so maybe I'll talk about it now. In Cash Free, I work for PG cards. So what is it? Uh, Basically, we have Cashfree has a payment gateway and a payouts team as well. The whole team, the whole company is divided into two parts. In payment gateway, it's like, you pay through something, and then there's a portal that comes up, and you enter your details and everything. Yeah. Uh, so that is a payment gateway, and on top of that, all the card transaction that goes through it, our team handles it. And our team is very small. I think we have like 5 or 6 members, which handles all the card transactions day to day. Uh, and out of that, we have uh, one SD3 and two SD2s. So yeah. Uh, so this was my journey. I have given a brief about everything, I would say, and I wanted to have a lot of questions uh, answered. So that's why I've kept a lot of time, so that maybe we can, deep dive into any part of it, and try to understand what I did or what were my learnings, and maybe that can help you, right? So yeah, I am open to questions, guys. We have some. So yeah, in GSoC, when you are deciding to uh, choose an organization, I would say, just do one thing, that don't go through all the organizations and try to pick the one. It's very, there are 200 organizations or more than that. It would be a very hard task. Just figure out what you like the most and what you have actually enjoyed playing with. Now, uh, that is one thing. The other part is, you also need to understand the difficulty level to get into an organization. If you take something like Force Asia, the difficulty level is not that hard, right? Uh, but if you take something like, maybe, uh, I don't know, what is it difficult? Python, for example, yeah. If you want to get into Python, it would be very difficult. So that factor also plays a role here. The third thing that plays a role is that, what are the language that you definitely know you won't code in. So that is not a good factor to have in mind, but it also helps to keep that in vision. So there are some factors, and you can think about it, and maybe you can. decide your organization right. Some good organizations that I know of, again, Python is there. In security, I was a security guy back then, so I know security only. But maybe I can ask others and come back to you later, right? Metasploit is good. The HoneyNet project is good. Then OWASP is good. Uh, uh, Maybe you want to maintain some distance from Force Asia. Um, but yeah, what do you think is the difference in contributing through GSoC and contributing without having mentors as such? Not much, to be honest. I mean, definitely mentors will be there to guide you and help you in your thinking frameworks and your engineering frameworks. But the beauty of open source is that every PR that you give, right, will be reviewed by someone. So it won't be like you won't get feedback. You will always get feedback, and that is the best feedback. Even to my juniors, the best way to mentor them, or how I mentor them, is through PR reviews. So your engineering or coding becomes better each time someone tells you, "Oh, this is not how you code." Right. So without mentors, also it's a very good thing to contribute to open source. Sadly, I haven't got time recently to contribute to open source. But if you have, definitely would recommend go out, do some small contribution. Ek to you will get the dopamine hit that is definitely there once your PR gets merged and you say, "Ha, my code is there in such a large code base." Second thing is you'll also improve your engineering. The best engineers I've seen have contributed to open source. How did you balance studying and having fun during a time in college? Oh, I did not study. Oh, I didn't mention that. Okay. So yeah, I did not study at all. What do I mean by that is I knew that if I have a above 8 CGPA, I'll be good enough. Maybe I will miss out on some companies that hire for like 9 plus CGPA, right? But then I don't want to sacrifice my time on studying something that I feel right now is not that beneficial for me, just to make myself eligible for sub companies. Maybe later down the line I become better, and then when the CGP criteria is not there, I can join these companies. So it's not like that I'm blacklisted forever. So I did not uh, focus on studying a lot. Although I did spend a lot of time on these exploring technologies, let's say, or talking to people. So if you're surrounded by smart people, right, the best thing that comes is that your conversations are itself fun. Uh, so, and then you plan your trips with these people, you go to different places to these people, and everywhere when you're talking, you are learning something new, right? So that's how I did it. I did not study, I had a lot of fun. And for us, fun was building cool stuff and going to new places. I don't know how you define fun, but yeah. What skill, best skill do we need? Uh, that sounds like, oh, captain, my captain. But yeah, what skill, best skill do we need? I think when we talk about skills, right, it's very important to break it down into two, which is hard and soft, right? Uh, so the hard skills are the your coding and everything. So early in your career or when you are studying for placements, hard skills have more important role to play in compared to soft skills, because if you don't clear your initial interviews, you won't even get a chance to sit in front of a director or a hiring manager to show your skills, right? The soft skills that you have. So focus on your hard skills first, and then comes the soft skills, which is, let's say, how you present your ideas. So personally, for me right now, most of my time is spent thinking and documenting it. Because coding is a very easy part, right? Once you have, okay, maybe for me it is, matlab, you will realize that over the span of time that writing code is not the hardest part. It's thinking what to write or how to engineer a solution, right? So all the good engineers that I've met are very good orators, or at least are very clear and concise, and very articulate in explaining what they mean. So make sure that you become concise and articulate in speaking, or at least not in speaking, to definitely in writing. Your emails, your documentation should be crisp and concise. Uh, and I think that's where a lot of open source also helps, because all the communication is happening through written communication. You're forced to uh, articulate your words before sending them. So yeah, these are the some skills you can have. Definitely depends on you, what kind of person you are, what lacks in you, or what you can improve personally. So think around that, think, figure out. But hard skills over soft skills any day. Once you come in a company, soft skills play a very, very important role, right? Uh, doesn't matter how good an engineer you are, or how brilliant work you have done. If it's not noted down, if you can't share it with everyone, then the value of that decreases, right? And even if you have a very great idea and you can't communicate it to the managers, or you can't convince your leaders to let's work on this, right? It will actually bring value to the business. Then again, no one will care about how good that idea is. So we have Shubham Agarwal. I am interested in open source, but I am scared I won't be able to deliver at the level expected. Please help. Oh, Shubham, I think that's a very, very, very good question, to be honest. Uh, because I think the imposter syndrome is with everyone. And it's not just at, let's say, open source. It's maybe when I joined IEEE, I had imposter syndrome. When you do open source, you will have this. When you go to your company, when I was going to a new company, uh, I used to have this, right? I used to be sitting in a meeting room with my directors, and my heartbeat used to get elevated just thinking about that I have to speak or I have to ask a question, because I didn't want to appear dumb. So that is a very valid question. Uh, and I think the only way you can deal with this is that you need to understand that what you want to deliver, right? So when you say deliver at the level expected, what is the level that you want to deliver at? Define it, polish it, maybe make it a mantra. So if you say, okay, I want one PR of mine to get, let's say, merged in the code base for in like 2 or 3 weeks, then that is your goal. And if you don't achieve it, it's perfectly fine. You recalibrate, right? So there is a very famous thing I heard recently, very cool, that either you celebrate or either you calibrate. So if you're successful, you celebrate. If you failed, you calibrate, and that's fine, right? So define the level, define what you want to achieve, and then achieve it. That is one thing that helped me. The second thing that helped me is in my career and even in open source, that it's not the onus of you to deliver, uh, or make sure that you are delivering the best, right? Anyone who is hiring you or anyone who is choosing you, let's say in open source GSoC, uh, has shown their trust and faith in you, right? So that actually helps in career, that if you are not able to perform at their level, then they were wrong in hiring you at that position. It's not a personal comment on you yourself. For example, if I go somewhere, someone hires me as a principal engineer, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be very bad at it, right? So it's not my mistake that they hired me at principal engineer position. It's their mistake that they hired me at principal engineer position. I though always told them that this is something I can do and these are the things. Now it's on them to evaluate this, right? So that is the second thing that is very important to understand. And open source in general, let's talk about open source, can be very scary, right? Um, and I always tell people, start small. You don't have to get the whole code base, let's say, remembered or memorized in 3 months or something. No one has this. Even in my company right now, I go through bunch of code and I crib about the quality of code, and then I see it's the code that I have written, right? So you will never know the entire code base even in open source. Start small. You don't have to prove anything to anyone if you're not under GSoC or something. Open source is a very healthy, promotive place. You go there, you maybe start with documentation, right? Or you maybe start with fixing a very small bug. Uh, so these are the small steps that you take, and it's not to deliver impact. Let me be very clear. It's to make yourself comfortable with the whole ecosystem. Like for example, again, I have a gym example. The first time you go to a gym, you are scared of what machine is this. You are conscious of every move you are making. And 2 months down the line, you are just going and you're like, oh, I am in this gym. I know you're just waving hands here and there, right? That happens everywhere. So make yourself comfortable with open source. How much important role does a CGPA play during placements? CGPA is a gatekeeper, right? If I am an employer and I have to hire the best out of best, and I'm going to an organization for that, what is the easiest way for me to filter people out is through, uh, let's say, sorry for that. Hmm. So, what is the easiest way out is for me to filter through CGPA. So, CGPAs are gatekeepers in general. We engineers or employers per se don't think of CGPA as a very big thing, but it makes our lives easier to, select few and give them the coding, and we have to evaluate the coding rounds as well. So it saves our time. Now, when I was in VIT, 8.5 was the bar for most of the companies. Sorry, 8 was the bar for most of the companies. 8.5 above, there were some super dream offers, and 9 plus again, there were some companies that were there. And I realized 9 plus to nahi ho payega. 9 is something that I can't maintain. It's a lot of hard work for me, right? So I thought that I'll try to maintain around 8, 8.5 or something like that. I did that. My CGPA was around 8.5. So I was able to sit for most of the placements, although I didn't have to. So that is the role of CGPA. It's just a gatekeeper. Okay. Since you are in development, how did you start learning it? Oh, first I read it like since you are in development, how do you start earning it? Okay. So, Ishan, how did I start learning it? I started learning through there was some website, I don't remember the name of it, where it's like it will break down the lessons. It will tell you what is the HTML tag, then you write the HTML tag, and it will visualize. Uh, so these are the kind of this was the kind of website I was going through, and I learned nothing from it. Right? I mean, if you after that, after doing that for like a month or so, if you give me a website to code, I was like, whoa, how can I do it? How did you start? You know, how the best way to start learning is pick a project. And when I say pick a project, a lot of people spend a lot of energy thinking that, oh, what will be the project about? It does not matter. Anything that you'll be making anyway is not, it would have been made by someone else, I'm pretty sure. Uh, and that's not even the point. So the goal is, it's very important to understand, the goal is to learn development, not to build the newest or the coolest stuff. So you pick a project and you start working on it. And when I say again, then the short term goal comes that I'm gonna spend 2 months on it. For me, I was very lucky that IEEE was there. So when I was transitioning from management to technical, um, I told my tech head is a yeah, tech head is a position. Yeah, I was about to say tech lead, but yeah, that I told my tech head that I want to do this, and he told me ki, "Acha, do this." So there was a list of there was a list in IEEE website. I had to add one line, and at that time it was cPanel, so anything that I do is reflected directly in production or in the live website. So I said, you give me the HTML code base, I'll add that line, I'll mail it back to you, and then you paste it because I'm afraid to do it. Uh, right. So that's how I started. And then I'm not sure if, oh, yeah, you guys might be aware of Enigma, right? Yeah. So I was given the development work for Enigma. So me, Karishnu, and Mayur, we developed the second Enigma that there was ever, and through that I learned a lot. So yeah, and Sahir, my tech head, was very serious. I mean, he was very strict. Uh, so we had to deliver, and that's where you learn the best uh, thing. And actually, it also connects with the thing that now it does not matter what technologies you use. What matters is that at the end of the day, if Enigma is not live at 4:20, uh, we are gone. So that now it also connects with the business part, that if your engineering is not able to deliver the business value, then your engineering is a it's not engineering, right? It's just your project. We have one more question. Adi Gulalkadi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but I have heard it is really difficult to get an ML internship. Does it make sense to do internship in something like web dev or other domain just to gain experience? Right. So let me tell you first why it is difficult to do ML internship, right? So machine learning, in general, speaking generally, it's not, yeah, Enigma. So it's not, machine learning is not very difficult per se, right? When you think about it, models are already built. Uh, you have to fine tune it. Data set is already there, and you have to deliver an output using this data set and modules, right? Sorry, models. But when you are working in a company, the data set is not as structured as you see somewhere else on Kaggle or something. So that's where a lot of pre-processing comes. Now, until and unless you understand the business itself, until and unless you understand ki what you want, what should be the output, the way you clean your database or the way you do your ML is completely dependent on it. So generally, during internship, it's very difficult to give the knowledge transfer, the KT, to someone to explain to that person ki what should be the output, because it's not just a binary classification anymore. We are actually delivering business values. So it's very important. Now you have to figure out all the factors that are important for that business, right? And it's very difficult to do in internship. So that's why it's very difficult to have an ML internship. If you want to just gain experience, because internships down the line don't matter a lot, they are for you to be exposed to the corporate side. It's not there for you to, let's say, learn something technology wise that you can do on your personal time, but it's for you to be exposed uh, on how the corporate world works. So it definitely makes sense to do internship in something like web dev or any other domain, provided it's something, uh, provided the problem that you are solving is something worth solving in that internship. So even if, for example, even if you get an ML internship and I tell you, oh, work on this blah 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 project, do a maybe pick a Kaggle data set and work on it, versus you come to a company which is working again on PHP. Sorry, PHP. Uh, it's working on PHP, and you are told to solve a very interesting problem, right? And you have to figure it out on your own. So always choose the latter as compared to the former. Always, because you have to figure out at the end of the day, you are there to solve problems. The bigger the problems are, the bigger you will learn, or the more things you will learn, and the better conversation you will have with your future employer as well, right? So pick something where you solve the most problems. Hey KP, at the very beginning of someone's career, working at a startup versus working at an established organization, which is better? This is a controversial one. So, yeah, um, since it's a controversial one, I'll take some time to think about it. Uh, but yeah, I think initially for a year or so, it's good to work at an established organization. Why? Because in an established organization, a lot of processes are set, a lot of engineering is set. So you see how things are already working. So you get familiar with how the processes looks like, um, and how the engineering looks like. So you're all looking at a finished, a polished product, right? Uh, Now, where will that help is that once you move to a startup after a year or so, you have that image in your mind of how a polished product looks like, and you will be coming to a work in progress. And once you come to a work in progress, you would be able to connect the dots at how this company will be shaped, and what polished product will it resemble, and is that polished product something that I want to be a part of, right? So I think that learning will help you to figure out, and it will also put you in a place where you will be able to give better inputs in your startup, right? So engineering again has two parts. It has problems to solve, and it has processes to adhere to, right? That how my deployment should look like, how my observability is, how my exception tracing is, all these things, right? That is one part of it, and one part is solving the problems. So when we talk about the observability or the deployment and everything, all these are processes are refined already in an established MNC, but maybe the problems that you'll get wouldn't be interesting enough. Um, and I hope no one sues me for what I'm saying, for my following lines. But when you work for an MNC that is not India, like it's MNC, right? It could be any company. You need to understand that for them, you are comparatively cheap labor, right? You are being paid less as compared to the Europe counterparts or the America counterparts. Since they are being paid more, they will be given the most interesting problems to solve, and the problems that can be solved very easily but requires a lot of grunt work will be pushed to India. So that is the mindset of most of the companies. And that's why you don't see a lot of interesting problems that people are working with, who are working in India for big organizations. On the other hand, startups में ये नहीं होता है. Startups में you have very interesting problems because, I mean, uh, maybe you are the cheap labor, but they don't even have the money to hire someone expensive also, right? In the initial years, at least. So the ownership is crazy. You get to learn a lot. You get to experiment a lot. Uh, and you also get to bring your experience from an established company into the startup. So yeah, um, I think work for a couple of years in an established organization, and that is my advice. Again, you do what works for you best, and then work for a startup. And then once you have worked for a startup for like 10, 15 years, and you're like, I want to take a breather, then you maybe you go to different companies. And me and my friends have these companies listed down, which we call retirement companies, where you get the money but you don't have to work for. So maybe if you want the list, I'll share it with you. Okay. Hitat is like RCB. Okay. Do we need financial knowledge, marketing skills, and good communication skill with nice personality in today's corporate world? That's a lot of things, Aryan. Do we need financial knowledge, marketing skills, and good communication skills with nice personality in today's corporate world? Hmm. I mean, it would be good if we have all of that, right? But no. The answer is that again, it depends a lot of factors that where you are going, in which field. But I'll talk about engineering because that is the only thing I know, right? In engineering, uh, I don't know what you call it, nice personality, but yeah, being an easygoing person definitely helps. and having good communications, written and verbal, both helps. I think these two are the most important things when it comes to engineering. If you are able to share your ideas, if you are able to discuss with different folks, different stakeholders, good enough. And if you are easygoing and if you can collaborate well with your teammates, again, be a part of the solution, not the problem, then definitely these are the only thing that matters. Financial knowledge, no, but I would personally suggest that financial knowledge, at least in terms of personal finance, should be there, because I know a lot of people who are earning in lakhs, but their salary goes woof. So yeah, that's the knowledge you should have to save some money. Okay, do we have more questions? No. uh, I guess that's it. We have around 10 minutes left, but let's just say you were a really nice audience, given the fact that I couldn't see your face, your voice. So it was just like talking to a screen, which seems very weird because I am mostly used to having a one-on-one conversations online. This was first of the sorts. Um, I hope I was maybe in this, like, say, last 1.5 hour, if there is one point or the second point that would have stuck with you and that would help you shape your career and your personality and your personal life, I would be more than happy, right? Uh, so yeah, that was it. Thanks all, and
Okay,
thank
so
you. Yeah,
as
and stay curious. I mean, that is very important. If at least you are in the engineering world, stay curious. Over to you, Varun.
Thank you, Arushit. And so that was the end of the Q&A session, and so the end of our session, Campus to Career. Thank you so much, Arushit, for joining us. It was an absolute privilege to learn from someone who has had so much experience in the tech industry, and I know all of us found this session so useful to kickstart our career ambitions and to gain so much more clarity on how to upskill ourselves. So, on behalf of IEEE, I would like to thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Varun.
And we have also sent an attendance form in the YouTube chat. So who all attended are requested to fill it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, just one thing. I think Aryan said, I was saying if you need to do gym. I mean, personally, to up to you, man. I mean, yeah, I like to go to gym because it keeps me fit. But definitely, yeah, cool. Thank you, folks. See ya.